This tutorial will cover some of the basics of orbital mechanics, which is just a fancy way of calling the way that things move in space. It can become quite intuitive once you get used to it, so let's look at some real examples. First of all, our orbit is a path in space around a gravitational body, such as a planet, moon, or asteroid. Everything has an orbit: our craft, the moon we're orbiting, and the gas giant that it's orbiting. As long as we're not thrusting or moving our craft in any way, we'll remain in a stable orbit. The plate display shows our orbit in an easy-to-read 2D plot. It contains a lot of useful information. The periapsis is the closest point to the moon on our orbit. The apoapsis is the farthest point. Right now, they're almost the same, since we're in a circular orbit. We can see that it's circular just by looking at it, but also by noticing that the eccentricity is close to 0. Period is how long it would take us to go once around the moon in the current orbit. Inclination is the angle between our orbit and the equator. A good thing to remember about orbits is that in most cases, the higher you are, the slower you move. So high orbits will take longer to complete than low orbits. When we're in orbit, there are 3 main axes in 3D space where we can point our craft and burn our engine. Prograde is where our current velocity is taking us. Radial points directly away from the planet. And normal points perpendicular to them, that is up or down. Of course, every axis has its inverse too. Burning along each of these axes will change our orbit one way or another. Let's look at prograde and retrograde again. The optimal points to burn are the periapsis and apoapsis. As I burn here, I'm raising the height of the apoapsis. Note how the orbit is not circular anymore, and the eccentricity is now 0.4. If I want to circularize the orbit, I'll travel to the apoapsis and burn prograde there too. I've circularized the orbit, and now we have a higher circular orbit around the moon. This method we've used with 2 prograde burns is called a Hohmann transfer and is an efficient way of changing your orbit's height. It also works just as well in reverse with 2 retrograde burns. We've already seen that our orbit is at an angle with respect to the equator, called the inclination. If we wanted to change that, the best place to burn would be the ascending or descending nodes, which are the points where our orbit crosses the equator. Go to one of the nodes and burn along one of the normal vectors. Now let's put this all together and try to get to orbit from the surface of Dilla. Let's aim for an orbit of around 100 kilometers around the moon. Full thrust on the vertical engines. Gear up. We're currently heading south. Face east so that we get a low inclination orbit. Time to switch to the main engines. Pitch up to around 45 degrees. Now let's keep going until our apoapsis is at 100 kilometers. From here, we can just coast until we get to the apoapsis. Let's zip ahead, but keep an eye on the time to apoapsis countdown. Align with prograde and full thrust on the main engines. And we've done it. We're now in circular orbit around Dilla. That's it. You should now have all you need to help you get into orbit and control where that orbit is going to take you. In the next videos, we'll cover how to land as well.